On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, down in Big D, it was all about the Toronto Raptors. Big Three.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It is Thursday, November the 9th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the website that's pretty broken all the time at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, doing a little bit more posting over there, little short clips and reels and stuff like that, because you got to do that in 2023, baby. You can also find the show on Discord, our lovely little listener community we got building around the show. Nearly 250 sickos just like you hanging out, talking ball. And on a night like last night, what a place to be. Just uproarious, joyous, super fun as the Raptors take down the Dallas Mavericks in convincing fashion, 127-116. A reminder, you can find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Just subscribe, follow, rate, review, hit the notification bell on YouTube, and you will never miss an episode. And with that, we bring you to today's show, which is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right. We are here talking about a very fun Toronto Raptors win, again, over the Dallas Mavericks, 127-116, to pull the Raptors to 500 on the season. Will they ever fall back below 500? Who's to say? Yeah, they play Boston in their next game, but maybe they can just take on anybody and win, because they got some big wins on their resume already. And here to talk about this very fun win over the Mavericks is our pal, the king of the game recap over at Raptors Republic. It's Jamar Hinds. Jamar, how the hell are you, bud?
I'm doing good. Looks like the Raptors are playing up and down to their competition early in this regular season, but it leads to fun wins like this, so I'll take it for now.
It does feel like the Portland loss was quite some time ago, considering what's happened since then. A nice Bucks win, a hard-fought loss to Philly, the comeback against the Spurs, and then last night. We will dive into the return of the bench, which looked alive in this game, and it was very nice to see. Long overdue. We will get into the good, the bad, and the of course, but we should start off, Jamar, with I think the big takeaway from this game, which is whenever the Toronto Raptors' big three of Pascal Siakam, Scottie Barnes, and O.G. Anunoby are kind of humming, this team is going to be capable of sweet, sweet basketball music, and boy, oh boy, was that on display last night. What were your takeaways from the Siakam, OG, Barnes trio? And look, all this season, we're going to be doing the sort of information gathering thing. This game certainly goes down in the sort of, on the case for keeping those three together. Of course, there'll be plenty of games that don't have that as sort of a box checked. But Jamar, thoughts on Pascal, Scottie, OG, all of whom had really fantastic games in their own ways in this one?
Well, I'm going to start with Pascal because he had a season high 31 points, and 30 of the 31 points came in the paint. The Raptors outscored the Mavs 72-40 in the paint. They didn't have Derek Lively, and they already were kind of small as is. So it kind of reminds me of the inside the NBA panel. A lot of times Barkley and Shaq will be talking about punishing the little guys in the paint. And that's exactly what Pascal did. Time and time again, he found the mismatches. Scottie helped him find the mismatches, and he would just post up a Luka or Derek Jones Jr. Or it was just easy pickings in the paint for Pascal. He was 15 for 25. He was 0 for 5 from 3. So that's at least 75% from 2. And a lot of those came in the paint. So it was a game that obviously, or this early in the season, people have been trying to figure out where does Pascal fit in the offense. He's been off ball a lot. He's been on the wings a lot, which is not really his strength. And then when he wants to be a driver, you have guys like Yak up in the paint. Scottie's shooting well to begin the season, but I wouldn't say defenses totally respect his shot yet, or Dennis Schroeder's shot. So really, OG's the only one that draws the defense out the paint, and it's kind of clogged things up for Pascal. So it's been kind of awkward to begin the season, but on a night like this where, the game plan was simple, it was more just find Pascal and find the mismatches. And he took great advantage of that. OG has been really consistent so far this season.
Yeah.
The 3-point shots is falling. He's scoring in transition. Obviously, we know what he's able to do as a defender. So it's just nice to see the consistency from OG. And just looking at the box score, you would think that Scottie Barnes had a bad night. Okay, the first thing you look at is field goal. He shot 4 for
You would
15.
be a rube to suggest this.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just, like I said, just box score watchers, you would think that he had a bad night. But Scottie, I think this was, I don't think it's a stretch to say this was even one of his better games because of the fact that he does so many things outside of scoring or making shots. Like you saw it on display, grabbing boards. He, like I said, he was setting up Pascal a lot. So he had 7 assists. He had 4 steals. He had 2 blocks. He blocked another 3-point shot. I believe he leads the league in blocking shots from 3. Again, I think I mentioned this before, but it kind of reminds me of Boucher's Tampa year when he was on steroids, just blocking everybody from the 3-point line. Scottie's kind of doing that right now, but it just shows you the versatility of Scottie and how many ways he can affect the game, even though the shots are not falling. And then he started to find a little bit of his way on drives in the fourth quarter. There's a beautiful 2-way sequence that kind of basically wrapped up this game in the 6-minute mark where Pascal was defending Luka and he was staying. He probably gave up about 5 fakes. He stayed down on all of them, didn't bite on anything. I wish we did that in the Bulls game when we're jumping at every single DeRozan fakes. Although that was not Pascal, that was Boucher and Scottie. But I digress. So anyway, Luka had to be forced into a tough turnaround, missed it, and then Scottie just grabs the board and goes straight down, coast to coast, lays it in, plus the foul. That basically ended the game. But that was just basically that one possession. It just explained the whole game and how, Luka was held to 11 for 26. He did have 31 points, but you'll take that percentage and just bludgeoning them in the paint. And another thing, it's funny, going back to the points in the paint, the Raptors didn't shoot that great from 3. No. I believe, let me look. I believe they were 11 for 30. Yeah, 11 for 36. So that's 30%. They didn't shoot that great from 3. And they missed 9 free throws. They were 18 for 27. They only shot 66%. Yet, they scored 127 points. That's an oddity. A lot of
meat left on that bone.
Yeah, that's an oddity in today's NBA where you struggle from 3 and the line and still score up that many points in regulation. So that just tells you how much they were dominating inside the paint. So you don't see many games like that. Normally, those things kind of come in hand when it comes to scoring a lot of points. You're normally making a lot of threes, and you're not missing your free throws. But Raptors were just dominating inside.
Yeah, and I think this game for me was kind of a showcase of the way Scottie, OG, and Pascal can absolutely elevate one another and amplify each other's strengths in the right context, right? Like, if there's not any shooting on the floor, the whole Jakob Poeltl thing, we'll talk about that elephant in the room, I'm sure, throughout the season. But those 3 dudes together, you have, of course, the defensive across-the-board length, versatility, ability to kind of guard both on the perimeter and at the rim. And frankly, it's unlocked by Scottie being what he's been as a backline rim protector, right? Like, they've closed games with him at center, and it has been pretty dazzling the last couple times out. And it's because he is a much better defender back there than he used to be, where he'd kind of get caught out of position. He was late. The instincts weren't quite kicking in or weren't kind of matching his bodily sort of movements weren't matching what I'm sure his brain's processing. Now it's all coming together. And when you couple that with OG and his unbelievable on-ball defense, Pascal, the on-ball stuff he's been doing more as like a sort of guard defender, frankly, this season. Like he's kind of busting out like the 2018 playoff stuff against Bradley Beal and John Wall on a nightly basis. You get those dudes humming on defense. They're going to force a ton of misses. They're going to run like maniacs. They ran on 25% of their possessions in this game, scored like a 1.45 points per possession clip, which is low for them as they are the best transition team in terms of efficiency in the NBA. That's the formula here. And those 3 guys together, I'm sorry, they just slap. It's really good. Those three guys without Jakob Poeltl on the floor this season, very small sample, just 67 possessions, but a 128.4 offensive rating, a 77.3 defensive rating, and a plus 51.1 net rating in 67 possessions. Again, teensy sample, but it speaks to what those three dudes can do in concert with one another in the right context. And even with Jakob Poeltl out there, they're still one of the best units in the NBA. They're a plus 18.1 net rating, those four guys together. Those three guys without the sort of caveat of Yak off the floor. So those three guys, all situations, a plus 18.1 per clean the glass. That's a 98th percentile lineup. That's really, really freaking good. And you saw it in this one. You can work around the overlap of skills when Scottie's playing more as a 5, when you have a little bit more space out there. You had one of my favorite possessions of the year. Our pal Blake Murphy called it the Russian nesting doll of post-ups and cuts. This was in the fourth quarter, I think. Pascal and Scottie kind of dueling post-ups and cuts off of those post-ups. Ends up with Scottie getting free throws out of it. That's the type of stuff you can get creative with. It's not a perfect fit, right? You have to have more shooting. There's not enough ball handling with those guys a lot of the time. But those three guys ain't the problem. It's the rest of the roster that feels like what has to come together for those three guys to really sing. But man, really encouraging stuff to watch those three guys kind of work in harmony the way they did in this one. And as much as Scottie and OG have been the main drivers of positive play for the Raptors so far this season, they are amplified by having Pascal out there as well with the stuff he does well. And there will be nights, not every night is going to be a night where Derek Lively's out and the opposing team has no rim protection, but there will be plenty of those. And it's really nice to have, in the instance where Scottie Barnes has an off offensive night, Pascal Siakam to kind of carry you through three quarters before Scottie goes closer mode in the fourth. I was really, really thrilled watching this basketball game, man, as someone who really wants the Siakam, OG, and Barnes trio to kind of be the thing they go forward with. I'm rooting for it. Obviously, I'm biased with it, but this was certainly a data point in the favor of anyone who wants to see that trio stick together long term. It was an absolute blast, Jamar.
It was just nice to see Pascal kind of get to his bread and butter. Like, totally, he had so many of those possessions where he kind of drives a little bit, gets a little bit of contact, then steps back, like around, I don't know, inside the paint or at the elbow area. Like, those are shots that we haven't seen Pascal have space to do really a lot this season. It was a barbecue chicken game, so,
Absolutely. As it turns out, having multiple ways to beat teams and multiple players who can lead your team on a given night is a good thing. Look, like, I don't want to be like the, actually Pascal is good guy all the time, but boy, oh boy, sometimes I feel like I need to be just sort of standing on the mountaintops ringing the bell about how good Pascal is and how complimentary he can in fact be to Scottie Barnes, even as Scottie Barnes ascends rightfully to the perch atop the ladder of this team. We'll come back on the other side and get to the bench, Jamar. The bench was good. It's crazy. The bench was good. We'll get into performances from Malachi Flynn. Was it his best game as an NBA player? I kind of think maybe. We'll get into that and much more in just one moment. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host and a massive Toronto Raptors fan, Josh Lloyd, to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, maybe you're part of our Locked On Raptors listener league. There's 16 people in there. I'm winning my matchup 9-0 this week because I listened to Josh Lloyd. You should listen to Josh Lloyd as well. And every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your fantasy roster. Josh has given a list of players here. The guy I'm going to highlight is Bismack Biyombo, Toronto Raptors legend, of course. Xavier Tillman has been dealing with knee soreness. Biyombo's come in as an emergency signing and just been everything that Memphis team needs. Of course, they're not winning games, but that's fine. Bismack's picking up blocks. He's picking up steals. He's picking up rebounds. That's the thing we know what Bismack Biyombo is going to do. So if you're looking for the right fit with your team, much like, with a player on your basketball team, but you want it for your car, I got there with over 122 million parts for your ride. eBay Motors is the place to go. So make sure your ride is running smoothly with brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs. eBay Motors has it, just like Josh Lloyd has you covered with whatever your fantasy basketball team needs. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, we continue on here with your first listen of the day. Jamar Hinds along from Raptors Republic as we break down a thrilling Toronto Raptors win over the Dallas Mavericks to move to 4-4. Just a heads up, tomorrow on the podcast, Joe Wolfond, our deal pal, will be along to talk about the first 10th of the Toronto Raptors season and where things sit, a bit of a temperature check on all the different things under the hood for this team. Jamar, the bench. Let's dig into this. A really nice outing. Good performances basically across the board, except for Grady Dick, who was kind of, invisible in the first half. Played just 7 minutes, didn't play in the second half. But Chris Boucher, Otto Porter Jr., Malachi Flynn, Gary Trent Jr. all combined to fill in the rest of the bench minutes. Gary Trent Jr., probably his best game of the season, 16 points, 4 of 8 from deep, looked very comfortable. Malachi Flynn, maybe the best game of his NBA career when you factor in the defense he played on Kyrie Irving for stretches. Otto Porter Jr., we'll talk about him. I'm going to get into him in the at the end of the show. Chris Boucher, where you want to start with the bench dudes here, Jamar?
Let's start with Malachi, actually, because I mean, haven't been the biggest fan over, the length of us doing this podcast together. So this was a game where Malachi was big. He made 2 big threes, I think, in a very critical moment. The first one, the end of third quarter, it put the Raptors up, I want to say double. I think it put them up 11. Mm-hmm. And then in the first minute of the fourth quarter, he made another one. This is during the time where basically it's like your transition period time, lineups wise. And it was during a time where Dallas was kind of threatening. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gave the Raptors a lot of breathing room. He was competing defensively against Kyrie, who is kind of being used weirdly this season by Dallas, I would say. Like, he's not on... I mean, this is not like a Pascal comparison, but he's not on the ball as much as he probably should be, considering what he can do offensively. I know Luka is extremely ball dominant, but I don't know. It's been kind of weird. But anyway, he was competing really well against Kyrie. Kyrie's kind of like they were going back and forth a little bit, and Malachi wasn't backing down. So, this was one of those games where everybody was looking at Malachi and was like, hey, okay, if Nick Nurse gave him a little bit more rope, maybe he could have displayed this a little bit earlier. Whether you agree or disagree, it's anybody's prerogative. But he definitely has confidence more this year compared to last season, where I don't think he's looking over his shoulder to get that quick hook. Because remember, he started this season pretty awful, right? So the fact that he can stick with it and contribute in a big road win like last night is pretty good. Gary Trent Jr.
Let me jump in on Flynn for a sec. Before we go on to Gary.
Sure.
Yeah. Loved Flynn's game. I think, it's very clear that he's just like more physically up to the task this season, right? Like, I feel like the talk about him, we always talk about muscle watch and it's always a little bit overhyped, but it feels like it actually has translated to Malachi Flynn making sense on an NBA floor now, where he can actually stay in front of guys. He can get to his spots a little more effectively. And yeah, the fact that he is just kind of coming in and taking those catch and shoot threes when they come to him within the flow, it's not forcing things. That's fantastic. I think he's been on a couple game run here of being one of the better Raptors reserves, which, I didn't think I was going to say at the start of the season, but I'm happily ready to eat crow if Malachi Flynn is going to be a reliable backup point guard for this team. There's still lots of proving ground to be, trodden between now and fully believing that it's here and happening and a thing you can count on night to night. But he's very clearly someone that Darko is going to put the faith in, and he's obviously the bench vet's very special boy. Like Dennis Schroeder seems like glowing every time he does something. Garrett Temple just comes over and gives him hugs and Garrett congratulations. It's beautiful to see. Great stuff for Malachi Flynn. I'm thrilled for Eric Flynn somewhere on Facebook, just being very happy talking about Nick Nursery or whatever. Gary Trent Jr., thoughts on his 16-point night. He was, again, I think as good as he's been so far this season. You don't get anything else really outside of the shooting, but that's fine. Gary Trent Jr. is there to shoot and be a gunner, and he gunned quite well in this one.
he had one of those pull-up threes in the fourth quarter when the Raptors were trying to extend that lead. It was like a no, yes type of shot. I literally said that out loud. But, he started the season struggling with his shot, and it looks like he's back. What was he, 4 for 8 from 3? Raptors struggled from 3 as a team, but Flynn and Gary combined for 6 of the Raptors' 11 threes off 50%. So
huge.
So you like that stat. Chris Boucher is a guy who made another 3. He was so hyped up that he made that 3 in the first quarter that the gum flew out of his mouth. Now, I feel like chewing gum and wearing a mouth guard. Is he wearing a mouth guard? Because
I don't know. I can't.
That
even
seems
fathom,
like a tough task to do at the same time.
So, I can't multitask like in anything in my life. Chewing gum and playing basketball, not something I will ever do. Yeah.
See, Otto Porter, he played 15 minutes. At least it's good to see him, start to get in the flow of getting consistent minutes, considering how long he's been out. He didn't score. He missed both his 3-point attempts, but the Raptors combined for 34 bench points. And even adding this game, they rank 27th in the league in bench points per game with 26.5. Only Philly, the Lakers, and the Celtics score less from the bench. So obviously this is not something that happens very often. And if we could just get some more consistency from the bench, it can only lead to good things.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into Otto at the end of the show, but, he didn't hit his threes, but it's undeniable that when he's on the floor, a lot of the Raptors lineups make more sense, right?
Yep,
like they can roll him as the fourth guy alongside a guard and the big 3, and those lineups, we'll get into it.
You saw that in the Spurs game.
Yeah. Pretty intrigued in general there. And, if he hits his threes, it's gravy. But again, it's not just about your 3-point percentage. It is about how defenses guard you and how they worry about your threat of shooting. It's the concept of space for sure. And he injects space alongside the most important players on this team. It's not totally dissimilar to what he used to do for the Warriors when he literally was starting finals games for the NBA champions like 18 months ago. Because he makes a lot of those lineups just beefier, bigger, more defensively versatile, and he doesn't take stuff off the table, right? He can hit threes when they come to them. He's going to be a rebounder for you. He's obviously a very sort of versatile, smart defender, can play a little small ball 5. It is a really nice thing to have Otto Porter Jr. playing. And they mentioned this on the broadcast, but I think it checks out the kind of more staggered schedule here after the very loaded first week and a bit. Seemingly a nice bit of runway to kind of ease him back into regular game shape. So hopefully more Otto Porter Jr. to come. Let's come back on the other side. We'll get into the good, the bad, and the There's not going to be much bad in this one, Jamar. Spoiler alert, I'm doubling up on the good because it feels like a day worthy of doing that. We will get to that in just one moment. Before we do that, however, we got to tell you about Jace Medical, today's sponsor. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses, who starts, who sits, and I'm thankful for that connection that we have today. I want our chat to be a little bit more personal. Whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by yet another supply shortage, you are covered, my friend. And thanks to our partners over at Jace Medical, with life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications that can be ordered in a 1-year supply, even ED generics for Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio prescriptions as well. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember, use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. A verified customer had this to say about Jace, quote, "I'm thankful for this service. Supply chain issues caused me to cut pills in half to have it. And I ordered most of my daily meds with a year's supply. I also ordered an antibiotic kit. I feel secure now. Prices are lower than local pharmacies. I highly recommend this for everyone," unquote. If you or someone you love would like to get some peace of mind by having a year's supply of any daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Go and check them out, jacemedical.com, JASE medical.com. Okay, rounding out the show here, as we do on every game recap episode of the podcast. It's the good, it's the bad, it's the a thing we liked, a thing we didn't like, and a thing that's got us a little bit intrigued about what lies ahead for your Toronto Raptors. We will start with the good. I'll go first here, Jamar. Okay. Darko Rajakovic is button pushing in this game. Last couple of games have been pretty good Darko games, I would say. As it turns out, the first 5 or 6 games for anybody, especially a new coach, bit of a learning experience, bit of a process of figuring out what works, what doesn't. It seems like Darko's settling in a little bit here. The sort of piece de resistance here, the 2 consecutive successful challenges on Ben Taylor wrong calls. Mwah! Fred VanVleet smiling from Houston. It's glorious to see. I also thought, we had a couple nice after timeout plays here and there. That's, I know, been a note of sort of discontent with people. Louis Zatzman had a great piece on this on Raptors Republic yesterday. People can go check out. But the thing that really stood out to me, Jamar, was a very subtle thing. End of the third quarter, Raptors are up by 8. They get the ball back with a little bit left on the clock to go and take the last shot. Pascal Siakam had been sitting. They sub Pascal in for that last possession. Pascal walks it up. All right, it might have been Flynn who walked. Yeah, it was Flynn who walked it up, I think. Yeah, or whatever it was. No, Pascal has the ball at the top of the arc. I'm remembering now. The threat of Pascal Siakam driving and eviscerating any number of Dallas Mavericks forwards, as he had been doing all night long, completely spooks the Mavs. They run a little pick and roll, the same play they always used to run with Fred VanVleet, where Fred pops over to the wing. It was Malachi Flynn this time, and the total fear of Pascal Siakam having the night he was opens up a wide open look for Flynn. He cans it. Raptors go into the fourth up 11 as opposed to up 8. I thought that was massive, like a huge, huge swing and a very subtle, just nice pressing of the button by Darko Rajakovic. Thought it was a good game from him. What was your good in this one, Jamar?
Well, our goods are basically the same.
Okay.
So I was actually considering, since you said that you may not have a bad, I was going to make Ben Taylor my bad and make that look so embarrassing that, you get challenged back to back on plays like that and lose both. If the rules were different, and I don't want them to add more challenges at this point, but if the rules were different, there'd probably be another call where he would challenge and get that right as well. And I'll just say my good is we'll just stick with Malachi, because the Dallas Mavs broadcast called him underrated.
By the way, I rewatched the game on the Mavs broadcast this morning. Great broadcast. They're awesome.
Yeah. So they were very highly impressed with Malachi's game, and considering it's been a struggle for him, so having another broadcast call you underrated, that means that's a step in the right direction. So that'll be my good, because Darko was my good, but you stole it.
Sorry to do that, buddy. So I was gonna go. I'm not going bad on my second bad. I'm gonna double up on the good, because it's a Good Times podcast. My next one is just the concept of this team grabbing defensive rebounds. When they do that, they're really hard to beat, man, because their first shot half court defense is fantastic. Their offense running off of misses is literally the best in the NBA. It's unstoppable. It's awesome. It's just a parade of dunks and layups, and it is a treat to watch. Having a blast with it. And in this game, the Dallas Mavericks only secure 6 offensive rebounds. The Raptors cleaned up the glass beautifully, even when they were going smaller. Shout out to Scottie Barnes. Our pal Joe Wolfon noted this last night, just what a beast he's been on the glass. It's kind of got a little bit under remarked upon just because of everything else he's been doing, the leveling up that's come across the board for him on both ends of the floor. But he is grabbing boards like a maniac. 14 in this game, of course. You get Siakam grabbing 12. Those two dudes combining for 26 boards. That's 26 possessions that are starting with those dudes with the ball in their hands and a head of steam going the other way. That is a recipe for very good things for this Toronto Raptors team. And I think we're seeing the benefits of this not being a team that forces the transition game with, jumpy turnover forcing, right? Like, they are not hunting steals. They're just trusting in their defense to be fantastic. And that is what they did last night. Obviously they got their steals in there as well. But for the most part, just getting those misses and running like madmen off of them. And it has been beautiful. Again, 25.2 transition frequency percentage last night. That is massive. 20 has kind of been the number. Throw over 20, they're basically impossible to beat. That, I don't think it's a surprise that they ran that much and were able to pull out this game against the Mavs, who I'm surprised seemed very eager to play a track meet with the Raptors. Shouldn't want to do that. That's how you lose to the Raptors. What was your bad, Jamar? You had Ben Taylor?
Yeah, we touched on Ben Taylor, though, so let me just add to your point.
Sure.
Mavs are normally like a slower paced team regarding how Luka's style. So that was interesting. Scottie, 21, 10, and 6, averaging this season. Did not think he was going to be a 20-10 guy.
No.
So this is spectacular.
Pretty nuts.
He's pulling a little bit of the at the expense of his field goal percentage. He was pulling a little bit of Moses Malone at the end, just grab the board. So that was kind of funny.
Exactly.
I made that comment that Jokic does this a lot too sometimes, where he just misses and just grabs it back right away. So that was pretty funny, and just another point to show just the mismatch size wise with the Mavs in the paint that that happened all game long. What's your
My is I mentioned it a little bit. Otto Porter Jr. closing, and not just closing, actually, in the third quarter when the Raptors kind of opened this one up, also was on the floor in that small ball look alongside Pascal, Scottie, O.G, and Dennis Schroeder. And so far, just 12 minutes on the floor for that lineup, but it is their second most positive lineup in terms of raw plus minus at plus 18 in 12 minutes. Going to keep an eye on that one. Obviously, we need more of a sample to see what it's all about. Their most positive lineup is their starting lineup with a plus 19 over 96 minutes. So pretty steady there. But if you can have that sort of cheat code lineup that just racks up the plus minus and you can close games with credibly, that is pretty huge for this team. As it turns out, the Pascal, Scottie plus shooting combination, pretty tight. I like it a lot. It's very fun. What was your from this game?
It's more of a pattern over the last few games. I feel like a 10-man rotation has kind of been set, which the odd man out being Jalen McDaniels.
Yeah.
He got pretty good minutes in the first couple of games, but he hasn't been able to make an outside shot. His shot was always inconsistent, and it wasn't a high volume to begin with. Mm-hmm. So he has the tools to be a defender, obviously being 6'9" and being long, and like a lot of Raptors players are, but he's such a negative offensively where it was basically unplayable. So Darko has made that adjustment where he's just getting a handful of minutes per game now. So he didn't even play in this game, got a DNP CD. So it's just me noticing the fact that it seems like right now, especially with Otto Porter Jr. being back, that's a big reason why McDaniels hasn't seen the court that much. But it just seems like a 10-man rotation has been set. So that's basically my observation.
Yeah, that makes look, here's the thing is there will be times for Jalen McDaniels, I'm sure, to slot back in, whether it's Otto Porter Jr. missing back-to-backs or injuries, which happen. But I think like a little healthy competition for those last couple rotation spots, never a bad thing. Boucher, Achua, I think are probably going to be in a bit of a battle as well for minutes. And I don't think that's a bad thing. McDaniels having a shot at minutes, Grady Dick, obviously, not being handed minutes, kind of having to earn them. This is a good thing. And all of these guys are going to get their spots, right? 82 games is a long time. And Darko Rajakovic has spoken a lot about the importance of kind of keeping the long game in mind over 82 games. That to me suggests all of these guys who, I think they run 11, 12 deep in NBA players. All these guys are going to get their shots and their looks and their moments. And the guys who run with them will be the guys like Malachi Flynn who get the minutes every single night without fail. What a weird sentence that is, considering.
Good on you for bringing up Precious, because I'm talking about 10-man rotation and forgot that Precious has been out for the last 5 games. So it's not completely set, but I'm just noticing trends in terms of minutes. That's all.
No, it seems like 9 with like a soft 10 feels like what Darko's landing on most nights anyway, right? Like 4 guys who kind of take up the lion's share of the bench minutes, and then depending on success and production, that can kind of go 10, maybe the 9th guy changes. It's a little bit fluid, which I think is, again, a good thing. You don't want to be too rigid, especially this early in the year when you're kind of figuring stuff out. One last little minor I'm curious exactly how long it takes for this Raptors team to become like a league pass darling. I know their offense in the half court stinks, but when they get out running, they're such a delight to watch, and their defense is so bloody good. Scottie's doing such incredible things. OG is obviously a total monster defensively. I wonder when do the basketball nerds start going, ooh, we got to be watching them Raptors? That's just a little thing to keep in mind. Not that it matters for anything, but, being a league pass darling is never a bad place to be, Jamar.
Normally, though, to be a league pass darling, you have to have some sort of like beautiful offense that people.
That's people being too rigid in their thinking, baby.
I'm just
Beautiful defense can be great to watch too.
Well, we're talking about a lot of times we're talking about casuals who's only looking at one side of the ball, right?
Oh yeah,
so
no doubt.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm talking the nerds. Once the nerds are on to you,
okay,
that's
the nerd.
that's a good thing.
Okay. Maybe, yeah. Okay. If we're just
Only
talking that demographic, okay. I can see where I can see you're thinking.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. That feels like a good place to jump off and leave you for the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us and listening in today. Jamar, anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Yep, as always, my Twitter, my link to my Raptors Republic work is right there. Jamar BH, if you're listening. And I will have a preview of their next game coming up on Saturday against Boston. This is to end this 5-game stretch that we thought was really tough to begin November, starting with the Bucks at home and then the 4-game road trip. And right now they're 3-1. Did not see 3-1 coming, especially how the October month ended. So, possibility to really turn some heads and go 4-1. We'll see.
Yeah, man. Keep it rolling. Take down the Celtics. They stink. Lost 2 in a row. They're actually bums. I think we can ride high after a game like that. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow with Joe Wolfond to kind of break down all that's gone on over the first 8 games here with the Raptors, heading into that game against Boston Saturday. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe, follow, rate, review, tell a friend. It's always appreciated when you support the show, however you support the show. And we will talk to you again on Friday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.